I'm your host, Carolyn Solo, LCSW, EMDR therapist, and mom of 3 daughters. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 106 of the Future Template Parent Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Solo, PhD, LCSW, EMDR consultant, business coach for intensive therapists, and mom of 3 daughters. Today, we're going to talk about the fear of judgment. Specifically, will family, friends, and other therapists judge me for charging so much money? This is something that's come up in my group, something I've chatted with people about on Instagram. And so I've heard it from enough people that I know it's a real fear. The fear of being judged is real. And often we're most afraid of being judged by those whose opinions matter the most to us, as we should, right? Certainly those randos on social media and their mean comments about who do you think you are, charging $6,000 for 15 hours of therapy, or nobody can afford that, and how could you expect someone to? And those comments can sting, and they do, but it can really hurt when you feel like someone you know and respect and even love is thinking those things. I've talked to lots of therapists about this, like I said, so I thought I'd delve into it a bit in this week's episode. So why do we fear this happening to us? I mean, I think, first of all, our own money stories, right? A lot of us are, people pleasers. And a lot of us probably grew up in families where there either was not a lot of access to resources or there was a narrative about how if you earn a decent living, there's something bad about that, something shameful about that. Certainly we have our graduate school professors and programs telling us, especially like for me in the social work field, that, you're never going to get paid very much. You shouldn't get paid very much. You should be doing this because you care about the work. And I do want to remind people when we think about, the origins of the social work field, it's not, benign, right? It's these white women who often, were well off and didn't have anything better to do, who are like, ooh, I'm going to go into these poor people's homes and tell them how to raise their children, tell them how to be better, right? To be a caseworker. That's not benign. And it comes with an immense amount of privilege, obviously, that someone can do that with their time and also think that their opinion is of value to those people, right? But that is so, the story that therapists and social workers shouldn't make a lot of money is not even grounded in it's not even considering the financial situation that a lot of people find themselves in. It's not kind of aligned with the financial realities of our present time where everything is expensive and what we're not supposed to increase our fees. We're supposed to just keeping things, quote, affordable, right? I think a lot of us I can only speak as a woman because that's the only really marginalized identity I would say that I possess, but that women aren't supposed to make a lot of money. That's one. Care work, like therapy, is supposed to be free. We should just do it because we care. But I think that the more, like other marginalized identities as well, like those individuals, you know, have not had access to wealth. In fact, like if you think about a lot of, you know, Black Americans and Native Americans and stuff, they were enslaved and their labor was exploited and they were, abused in so many ways, terrorized. So and the generations of individuals who are descended from those people, that there still is these deeply held racist beliefs that people like that don't deserve to make money or shouldn't make money. And then, so all these money stories, I think, stack up against us. And, so we're afraid of being confronted about this because deep down we wonder, is this true, right? Should I not be charging this? Then, of course, there's good old imposter syndrome, right? I'm not good enough at what I do to charge this. So other people know that and they're going to expose me and they're going to say, who do you think you are charging this much money? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know who I think I am. I don't deserve to charge this much money. So certainly that comes up a lot. Even imposter syndrome around being a private practice owner, you know, I and again, and that's also something that we get in graduate school as well. Like, oh, certainly that's the case in social work. Like, private practice is one, impossible, and two, is only serving rich people, so you shouldn't do it. And so those of us who do make that decision, we're like, do I even know enough? And am I sort of stepping out of turn by doing this? And that kind of aligns with the ethical concerns, I think, too, like, which I've talked about a lot. Is it unethical to charge this much money? And we are worried that it is, right? Because not everyone can pay $6,000 for 15 hours of therapy. And that's true. They can't, but that doesn't mean that we don't deserve to be compensated well for the work that we do. Um, and yeah, other therapists might call you out as unethical for charging this. Even your family members might say, how could you, like, I couldn't afford this. How could you charge something that like people in your own family couldn't afford? Like, healthcare isn't accessible enough. And, remember, like, we're not responsible for our broken healthcare system. We all wish we could get paid well and offer services to everyone who needs them, but that is not the capitalist American way, now is it? I think something else that we fear is, or not fear, but think about when we're thinking about, being judged, is like who we serve, right? If we serve people with marginalized identities, whether it's the LGBTQ community, immigrants, Black people, Native Americans, Latinx people, whoever, those people who are members of those communities are more likely to not have as many resources financially. So, family and friends could say, how could you charge that much when the people that need you, the people who look like you, who believe the same things that you do, who come from your community, could never pay for that, right? And that can feel really hard too, because often we do want to be able to serve the people whose lives we understand, who have similar challenges and barriers that we've undergone, and we feel called to serve those people. So that can feel really hard too. And yeah, and like, what if there's nobody we know who could actually afford this, right? Does that mean we shouldn't do it? And then, of course, like, we don't know what people really can and can't afford. That's also true. Or how people pay for things. But certainly, a lot of us don't know people who have $6,000, accessible to pay for like a therapy intensive. So those are all the things that I think we're fearing will happen, this judgment, and that these are some of the reasons that our fear about this judgment comes up. Where might this judgment come from? Because yeah, it can happen, right? All these judgments can happen. It's not like they're not going to happen. I think for close people in our lives, one of the things is that they fear we won't succeed. Like, what if nobody does pay for this? Like, and you have a business that's saying that this is what you know what you're charging. What if nobody does this? What if you fail? And that often comes from a fear, like, I don't want this person I love and care about to struggle and to not succeed. I mean, we all know what goes into running a business. It's not just, it's an emotional investment, it's a financial investment. None of us want to fail at that. And so the people we love are also afraid that maybe we have a spouse or a partner who is like, I don't think anyone's going to pay this. I don't think you can do this. And that's most of the time not coming from a malicious place. I hope it's not. That can happen. And there's jealousy there too. Like, maybe there are family members and friends who feel jealous that we are doing something that's, potentially very lucrative, that's very ambitious, and that stirs up their own stuff about, their own capacity. But I do think there is this fear that, like, someone I love and care about might fail. And then what? Then what happens? It's very scary. Like, you're running a private practice and you don't have a nice, solid employee-based health insurance plan. Like, there's lots of reasons why the people in our lives can feel worried for us that this isn't going to happen, that we're not going to find the clients to make this model work. And then I think, of course, anyone in our lives has their own money story that is going to influence how they think about what we're doing. They are going to be afraid that, they have all these triggers around money from their own upbringings, from, maybe some of the same stories that I talked about our own stories, right? Like we, you know, they don't, like, there's something wrong and dirty about wanting to make money. There is, money is inherently bad. Um, Professions that help people you shouldn't make a lot of money. That's not why you go into it. So their own money stories could be caught up in this as well. I think also, certainly from like other therapists, you can get jealousy, right? Their own stuff is being stirred up. They're like, oh, this is unethical. How dare you do this? No one can pay for this. Maybe what's under that is they don't think they could do it. And maybe they're not even aware of it. I mean, like, I think for so many of us, there's so many unconscious beliefs and fears about money that we don't even know are there. And they get stirred up whenever everyone talks about it. I mean, money is one of the big taboos in our society to talk about, right? And so when it is an issue that is coming up and, people have opinions about it, and, you know, they might not even realize that that's what's getting activated. They're like, oh, how dare she? But what it really is, gosh, I wish I could do that. I'm, how is she making that work? I envy that, but that's too painful to acknowledge. So there's some, projection. There's some, you know, what is the word I'm looking for? Pressing down, repression. All those defenses, right? All of Freud's defenses come up when we're doing something that's kind of out of the norm, where we're sticking our neck out and saying, I'm going to do this thing. It's not easy. It's unusual. It is daring, and I'm going to do it. And I might get judged for it, right? I might have people come and say to me, how dare you? Who do you think you are? So how do you deal with that when that happens, right? Honestly, I think knowing your why for why you're offering intensives and why you're making the shift in your practice matters so much. Stay so grounded in your why. In my group and individual coaching, one of the first things I work with people on is their why. Why are they offering intensives? And not just like, oh, I want to make more money. Sure, that's great. Let's get down into the nitty-gritty. Exactly why are intensives the answer for you? Why do you have to make this change? Why is this so crucial? And you remember that and you hold on to it. That is going to help you show up with more confidence when you talk about your fees, either to potential clients or to therapists or to people in your life who are like, what are you doing? Your why is so important. And no one's entitled to all of your why, but I think it's good to have a little pitch about like, well, here's why I'm doing it. And then just say it and let it go. Don't apologize. Don't undercut yourself. Don't say, oh, well, I don't know if this is going to work. Know your why, whatever that is. Like for me, as I've talked about so many times, it's that I cannot be the kind of parent I want to be if I have a traditional 20 plus individual clients a week practice. That does not work for me and my family. And I still need to be able to support me and my family. So something has to give. Not to mention the fact that I know intensives are a better service than hourly therapy for the most part. I know that. So that also helps me. It's like not just the clinical why, or not just the personal why, it's the clinical why. I'm very grounded in that why. If it feels helpful for these conversations, it's great to have a couple of examples to hand about what's going well. Maybe you've booked a 3-hour intensive and it went great. Maybe you've talked to colleagues about it and they're excited about it. Maybe you have done your own EMDR intensive and you've seen how transformational it is. Maybe there's someone who you didn't think would be able to afford an intensive, but they decided to do it anyway. I mean, I think it's useful to have a few examples about this so that you can kind of push back on some of those beliefs that aren't real and are harmful to you and are also harmful to any like potential clients. And I think it's really brave and important as a therapist to stake a claim and say what we do is important and is incredibly valuable, and we do deserve to be compensated well, and it is really hard. I firmly believe, as far as private practice therapy, like a rising tide lifts all boats. The more of us who are saying, I am charging this fee and I'm worth it, the more it gives permission to other therapists to do it, and the more it elevates our field, right? Those psychiatrists are out there charging $400 for a you know, 45-minute session and not blinking an eye, like, why shouldn't we? Right? The work we do is just as hard, requires a ton of skill. It's different than practicing medicine, but psychiatrists aren't out here taking a million advanced trainings to practice therapy either. So we deserve to stake our claim and say, this is super important work. This is life-changing, life-saving work. And I'm going to get compensated for that. And if insurance companies aren't going to do it, I'm going to do it myself. That is so brave. And like, how, if I heard someone say that to me, I would just be like, yes, that's incredible. Like, more of that, please. Right? So just having a little spiel without, going on and on and on, because I think the more we talk, the more it seems like we don't believe what we're saying. But have that little spiel, have a couple examples, and then just be done with it, And remember, it's also okay to set a boundary. If people keep pushing you on this and keep saying like, well, I don't know, no, you can say like, I feel like I don't really want to talk about this anymore. I feel like I said what I needed to say and I'd love to move on to something else. No one's entitled to make you feel bad. No one, you are not required to assuage everyone's fears about what you're doing. I mean, and when it comes from a place of love, especially like from a family member or a friend, it can feel like we have to reassure them. But, we can do the best we can and then just say like, you can trust me a little bit that I've really thought about this and that I'm being really intentional about it. And then you can say, and I think it's time to stop talking about this for now and like, let's move on to something else. How are you doing? Whatever. Yeah, you can set a boundary about that. You are not required to explain yourself to anyone. Nobody. And what if it's your partner? You can say, hey, like, I need you to trust me a little bit on this. And I will ask you and I will bring it up when I'm ready to talk about this more. But I think that, I think I've got this, and hopefully that is something that they can hear. And finally, no one gets to run your business except you. You are the one who knows what your business is and needs to be and what you want it to be. Like, it's great to have support and feedback when it feels helpful and supportive, but we don't need people tearing us down. Like, that's not helpful. You want some people in your corner who are cheering you on and who are like, yes, you can do this. I believe in you. You're amazing. And you get to run your business. If you stop taking insurance, that was your choice. If you left a group practice, that was your choice. That's one of the scary and exciting things about running your own business is you get to do what you think you want and need to do. Like, it's not somebody else's choice. It's your own. And of course, that's like a big responsibility, but it's also so liberating. And so, yeah, like, other people don't get to tell you how they think you should be doing what you're doing. And, speaking of having someone to cheer you on and support you, that's why it can be so valuable to have a business coach who gets it, gets what you're doing, is helping you see the path forward and can be that voice that's like, no, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that judgment. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've like sent a message in Slack to my business coach being like, oh, somebody said something mean to me on social media, da, da, da. And she's been like, hey, that's okay. That's not about you. That's about them. Let's take a breath. Let's like acknowledge that it didn't feel good, but that like you don't have to reply. And that's so helpful. And I think having that place to go when those things get, because running a business is isolating, right? So when people are asking us how it's going, it can feel good to have someone to talk to, but sometimes this stuff comes up. So it's like, it's so important to have, whether it's a consultation group or a group program with coaching like I do, or individual coaching like I do, have someone who's really in your corner and 100% on your side. Like, our family and friends have something invested in what happens to us, right? Like, it's also why our friends can't be our therapists, right? Because it's not totally about us. If you have a business coach, they're there to help you. They don't have their own like, but how is this going to affect me tied up in it, right? So it can be really, really helpful to have that outside perspective. I mean, I know it is. I don't just say it can. I know how helpful it is. So if you feel like this is something that I could support you on, like, please reach out to me. You can either email me or you can DM me on Future Template Parent or whatever. But like, I have a lot of ways that I could support you, individual and group, and I'd love to just chat I'll put the link in the show notes for a consult call. I'd love to just chat about, what are the options? There might be a good option for you. So that is my little spiel about what to do when you worry about being judged by others for how much you're charging for intensives. These are all valid concerns, and there are things that probably can and will come up for you. And it can just feel good to know that you've got something to say, that you're not just going to be flailing around like, oh, I don't know. Oh my God, you're right. I'm terrible and I shouldn't be doing this. No, that doesn't need to be what happens, but you do need to know what you do want to say. And it helps to know what is really going on for those people when they say those things. It's usually not about, it's really not grounded in your reality. It has something to do with their own stuff. So next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about offering intensives as an insurance-based therapist, which is a common question I get. So we will talk about that next week. I hope you all are enjoying your summer. And I, as always, am excited to hear how you're feeling about the podcast and talk to you soon. Take care.